It's great to see you again, Councilman Davis.
Great to be seen. Thank you. It's good to see you as well.
Now, I want to start with a really basic question, which is what qualifies you to be the next mayor of the city of South Bend?
Well, you're looking at a former college athlete. I don't like losing, and as a matter of fact, I'm a huge competitor. I hate losing more than I like winning. And so you're looking at a person that won't stop, won't quit, and won't stop, if anything, until the job is finished. Since 2005, I've been an elected official. I first got in as a precinct committee chairman with the Democratic Party here in St. Joseph County. Subsequently went and ran for South Bend City Council, Common Council, and now I'm in my third term. I've passed over 30 pieces of legislation. One of the ones that we're really still dealing with, and it shouldn't be, but we are dealing with the Citizens Review Board. That was my baby. I wrote the policy that connected or expanded the relationship between the Zoological Society and the South Bend Potawatomi Zoo. The legislation that brought in jobs and brought in new tax base over at Ignition Park, I put that in place. The changes that you've seen on Western Avenue and downtown South Bend with small businesses, that was my legislation. The three-way liquor license that helped expand some of the small businesses downtown. Wrote that as well. Look, I've done the job, right? And so then I went back to school, got my master's in management, business management. And so now I'm understanding the role of the government a little bit better, a lot better. And I understand that my skill set can go into the 14th floor or into the mayor's office to help produce a better outcome to make sure the city departments are working at a higher level so that we can be more responsive to citizen needs.
Now, as you think about that transition from councilman to mayor, is there something that you hope to accomplish as mayor that you've not yet accomplished as a council person?
Oh, absolutely. We want to bring jobs in here to South Bend. We want our neighborhoods to be flourishing. We want to create a larger, more systematic relationship that's going to improve with the South Bend Community School Corporation. And as a matter of fact, I wrote the policy for that back in 2009. And so I'm really happy, I'm excited about the opportunity of becoming mayor of South Bend so that we can start moving forward on some of these initiatives, but expand them. I think the backdrop of having Notre Dame here in the city of South Bend is a great opportunity, but those who are obviously at IUSB as well, because those are our working class folks, right? Those are people that are already invested into this community. Those people live here, grew up here usually, and they are actually probably even homeowners now at this point with children probably in our local school corporation. So I'm looking forward to expanding the relationships and making sure that we all realize South Bend how it's supposed to be for every family here in South Bend.
If you were pressed to think about the most important issue facing the city right now, what would you say?
I'll say it's crime right now. That would probably be my first answer would be crime. Crime has reared its ugly head again, and now it's turned into something that we all don't want to see. Crime has led to so many lives, being lost at a very early age. And it's scared investors away as well as other people who may want to move into South Bend. So we have to get away from the idea of the crime element. We just the other day interviewed someone for the Citizens Review Board, and he began to read our mail to us, telling us that we had a grade F as it relates to homicides in this area. Then he told us about the D and the C grades as well as it relates to crime in this area. We got to get away from that. There's no place for that in South Bend. There's no place for that in the state of Indiana or even across the United States of America. But I'm here in South Bend and I'm looking to improve that relationship as it relates to crime, but making sure crime does not have a seat at the table. We got to kick it out of the city limits.
So as you think about how to address that issue of crime, is it more officers on the street, better technology, more interactions with the community, diverting funding to other kinds of resources? How would you approach it?
It could be all of the above, right? I think we've tried a number of other things that you just brought up. Citizens Review Board was one of the tries at it. Look, people need to feel like that they have a place here in South Bend. They need to feel like that there is hope, right? There's not hopelessness. Our school corporation, the way that it's shutting down right now, doesn't give people hope. It makes people feel like that they don't belong here or no one cares. And so we have to come in with a different spirit, a different plan of action that says, hey, you belong here, we care about you, we love you, we want you here, you're a valuable part of this community. I think that's how we start the conversation about tearing down crime. Investment is always a good thing. We have to begin to invest in people. The problem is that we haven't been investing in people. Even now, we're talking about more condos, more apartments. We're talking about more buildings. People still need to fill those buildings. And if we have the wrong people filling those buildings, or people who are hopeless about living in South Bend filling those buildings, we're just going to have the same outcome that we've been suffering from. So, I mean, there's a number of ways that we can go at this. I totally believe that we need investment, true investment, especially into our human capital, the members of this community. And then we need to realize policing differently as well. Here recently, we've seen what happens when a person is having a mental breakdown and how that person was treated by law enforcement. I don't blame anybody for that. I can't. But since we know that that exists, how are we going to go about it later on, or how do we retrain ourselves to deal with it? And so we have models across the country when you have a crisis intervention unit that is deployed to areas where a person is having a mental breakdown. We need to have that here in South Bend. We should have that in South Bend. We will have that here in South Bend. So we have to start realizing this differently than what we've been doing. They said doing the same thing over and over again is insanity and expecting different results. So we got to do something different.
And when you talk about that crisis response system, then are you talking about sending in a team of mental health professionals, perhaps, in addition to or instead of law enforcement in some cases?
Law enforcement has to be present, right? Because there is a problem going on here and we don't know how it's going to turn out. So we want law enforcement to be there. But what we don't want to do is turn this into a situation that it shouldn't be. The killing of Dante Cottrell was very traumatic for the community. Whether you knew him or not, it was traumatic. And so we don't need to repeat that. So yes, we need a crisis intervention unit that's deployed to the area, that's accompanied by law enforcement officials to handle and secure the area until the mental health technicians or professionals are able to handle the situation and quell whatever's going on with that person who's having that mental breakdown.
And in terms of that citizen review board that you mentioned, where would they come in and what role do they play in overseeing what's happening?
Well, see, Citizens Review Board was something that the community wanted. I started back in 2014. We finally got it passed a couple of years ago. And people were asking for another way of going about, keeping and holding law enforcement officials responsible or accountable. I get that, right? So what we wanted to do and what I was trying to do was offer the community into the process. People don't feel like that they're being offered into the process because the Board of Public Safety is made up of mayoral appointees, right? And so many other boards that will, hold these individuals accountable. So the chances of people even feeling like they got a fair shake when they felt like they were being done wrong is probably next to zero. So a Citizens Review Board provides that buffer. It gives the community the opportunity to say, hey, this happened, this is what's going on. And then we have different individuals that are going to be able to investigate what's happening and what has occurred and come up with something that says, hey, either you were treated fairly or unfairly, and this is what we say that should happen next. And so we want more people at the table. We want the citizens of South Bend to say, hey, we belong here and we're a part of the decision-making process. We don't want people to feel like that they're not involved. That's really actually adds to the atmosphere of it being crime-filled and violent. It does. It adds to it.
So empowering and creating that sense of belonging.
We have to empower people.
Now I want to follow up. You mentioned the schools. Of course, the mayor doesn't actually control the schools, but
No.
what is it that you think the mayor should do and can do?
Well, let me tell you this. The history, right? Back when Mayor Steve Lickey became mayor, he dissolved the relationship between the school board and the city of South Bend. There was a relationship when Joe Kernan was mayor, and also before. It was a hybrid board. We made appointments to the board along with certain individuals who were elected to the board as well by the community. So us saying that there was really no relationship and there can't be a relationship, I say no, that's not true. We can employ that tool again, or we can just get a seat at the table when the school board is meeting or in the offices with the school superintendent. I think it's incumbent upon us to do that. And the reason why I say that is because those same individuals that go to the schools here in South Bend are the same individuals that live in South Bend. Their parents are tax-paying citizens, they're residents, etc. And so what happens with the schools is what happens to us on the other end. So if we have a school closure, that school actually depletes the property tax value of the other homes in that area where it's closed at. So property taxes is what the local government thrives on. That's how we function. And so we have school closures in these neighborhoods. Guess what? We're not going to be able to do trash service like we've been doing, street sweeping like we should be doing, and so many other things that we are supposed to be offering to the public. If those schools continue to close, we'll have less money. And guess what else happens? We're not able to recruit employers to this area either. And so, I mean, it's a real bad mixture. We need to get involved. We have to get involved, and we have to figure out how to correct this and begin to recruit families back to this area and start rebuilding our school corporation, our public school corporation.
Now, of course, consultants from firms HPM and Fanning Howey have made recommendations to close Clay High School and Warren Elementary. It sounds like you are not in favor of moving forward with that recommendation.
No, I'm not. You know, Warren has a special place in my heart. My son attended Warren during his first several years of school. Those teachers over there were awesome. They were committed. A matter of fact, one of his teachers was the wife of assistant principal of mine when I was in middle school. So it was just like one of those great things. It was a great feeling when you have people that know you and know your child. And so relationships mean everything, right? But closing schools, no, I don't think that we have fully thought this plan out. And the reason why I say this goes back to the real estate conversation, but also goes to our identity here in this world. We can't be known for just shutting down schools or the idea of right-sizing the school corporation. We need to be talking about how do we build, not shutting down. And so if we're the only thing that we are allowed to do, only thing that we're going to be talking about doing is shutting down and moving people out because people are moving out, then we're not doing our job.
Now, as we think about real estate, you have been a vocal critic of Mayor Buttigieg's 1,000 houses in 1,000 days initiative to deal with blighted properties. What would you have liked to see instead, and how will you deal with the issue of safe, affordable housing?
Well, I was a critic because development can be an afterthought. I wasn't a critic because those houses in my district, a lot of them were in the second district, didn't need to come down. I drove past those houses all the time. I was called over to many of those neighborhoods and asked, what can we do about this property and how we're going to take care of it? I get it, right? But when we're going to go and try to correct the problem, we can't create another problem. And that's what happened. We have so many empty open fields in neighborhoods that are not being taken care of, that doesn't receive the grass cutting that is due. We have varmints running around in those yards, you know, just setting up shop, you know, raccoons, possums, what you name it. You know, and a lot of people in the urban area shouldn't have to expect that there's a deer in front of their house, right? These are true stories. So I call foul on that. What I would do, I would bridge a relationship, a stronger relationship with the Department of HUD, our housing authority. That's the quickest way that we can get to an affordable housing plan and begin to develop. The other thing is that I want to offer local housing developers incentives. How about no cost for the lot, no cost for a sewer and water hookup, no cost. I just want you here so we can begin to rebuild these neighborhoods. We just can't be cherry picking who wins and who loses. We need everybody to win so we can realize South Bend to be the community that we all want it to be.
It sounds like all three mayoral candidates talk about wanting growth to occur across the city and opportunity be available in all neighborhoods. It sounds also like that's part of your solution to making that happen.
Sure.
How else can the city make sure to take care of people in neighborhoods that may have neglected? And do you think that some neighborhoods have been?
Absolutely. There's a lot of neighborhoods that's been neglected. I got a call from a gentleman about Locust Road a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the amount of potholes and dangerous ditches along the road in South Bend city limits. And so he was saying this has been neglected, talked about how the south side has been neglected and has not been cared for a period of time. And so we want to talk about the west side most of the time when we talk about neglect. It's spread across the entire city. The southeast end of town, Riley High School area, same type of situation. So we want to expand this discussion, right? And everybody says they want growth, but show me how, right? I've written policy for growth, right, and gotten results out of that growth, right? I have an MBA that says Henry knows what it is to do proper management, right? And so we have to employ the tools and skill sets that we have. Look, we're smart enough, we're creative enough to create a more happier atmosphere in South Bend. But what we shouldn't be doing is stopping people from participating, and that's what has been happening. Yes, it sounds good that I say, yeah, I want growth, but prove it, right? And so my legislation proves it. My years of service proves it. It's just not a tagline. It's just not something sexy that I'm saying to make people say, oh, he knows what he's talking about. No, I have receipts. I have a life in doing this, right? And so when we want growth, you go for growth. And guess what? It doesn't always necessarily mean that we only talk about what we can do here in South Bend. Let's go to Pasadena, California and figure out what they've been doing. Let's go to Sacramento, California and see what they've been doing. Let's go to Des Moines, Iowa and see what they've been doing. Chicago, Illinois. Let's see what their best practices are and see if we can actually pull those in here and see how they fit in our growth matrix. Yes.
Now, some developers say, look, construction costs are high. It costs a lot to build affordable housing, and building it in certain neighborhoods means you won't be able to get the value out of it. Are there additional things the city should do to incentivize them?
Well, that's what I was saying about no cost. For water hookup, we can eat that cost. When I was talking about sewer hookup, we can eat that cost, right? The lots, we can eat that cost. Those are like the top three, right? Anything outside of that, we really can't touch it. We can't. We offer tax abatements, and so let's offer our tax abatement for, let's just say, if we're going to clear out the whole block. And look, we just saw that out there at Industry Commons area, right? They cleared out the entire block. They were offered tax abatements, and they were offered bank-backed loans that were able to support the development that happened. We can do the same thing that happened out there in these neighborhoods. Obviously, it will be at a smaller scale. There won't be homes that are $1 million plus, but we can do it in the city, South Bend's city limits, and especially in these neighborhoods that are dying for it. We deserve that. We can do that.
And what happens when a developer doesn't fulfill his promises after getting an abatement or getting public investment? Obviously, the Dave Matthews, there are extenuating circumstances for the grocery store downtown, but he's not the only one, as you pointed out in a debate recently.
No.
What can the city do?
Be clear, be actionable, and be who we say we are. We enforce the law. The mayor's office enforces the law. No one just gets a free go at it. We're just not going to say, well, because I don't like Dave or Tom or Henry, we're going to get them because they're out of compliance, and the rest of you guys, you're fine. No, everybody's judged on the same scale. If you signed up for a tax abatement and you got the tax abatement, guess what? Do what the tax abatement requires you to do, and come back with the goods, or else taxpayers, citizens deserve the money to come back into their pockets.
Development, opportunity, and enforcement. Unfortunately, that's all the time we
That's
have
it.
for now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.